Welcome to RGES Pre-Algebra. This is Lesson 8B. Be sure you listen to the end and be sure you write everything in black on your notes, including the title as I have it here. So go ahead and pause and do that. Now we are going to talk about English measurements, our standards we use in America typically. Except when we're doing science, where we'll use the metric system, and much of the world does use the metric system, and we'll be doing that in Unit 3. So in Unit 2, we're talking about linear measurement. That means as we are to measure along the line of something, along across a room or whatever, we're looking for length. Okay, so the basic units are the inch, the foot, the yard, and the mile. And you need to understand or memorize the conversion factors between these. There's 12 inches in a foot, or 3 feet in a yard, which means there's 36 inches in a yard. There's 1760 yards in a mile, and if you multiply that by 3, that would mean there are 80 feet in a mile. So that's not very many things to memorize, just 5, and you would memorize those conversions on page 77. So lesson 1 is very simple. 2.1 is just identifying the abbreviations versus the actual words and giving you practice for filling in the conversion factors. Now, of course, the Y student would have studied the table and then given themselves kind of a drill with doing 5 through 8. But however you do it, make sure that you know these. These will be on the quiz the Wednesday you come back. Now, converting measurements is a little more challenging, but not really. If you know the conversion factors and you know which is smallest and which is greatest, which I'm sure you do at this point, then simply all you have to do is, let's say I'm converting 6 feet to inches. I ask myself, are there more inches or less inches than there are feet? 6 feet. When I'm going to inches, will I have more or less than 6? And the answer is much more, right? So I'm going to have to multiply. So the first thing is to decide, are you going to multiply or divide? You are going to multiply, and the conversion factor between inches and feet is 12. So 6 times 12 equals 72 inches. If you're looking at the next one, it says 90 inches, and I'm going to go to yards. The question is, am I going to have less or more yards? Where you're going to have less yards because a yard is a bigger unit of measurement, so you will divide how many inches are in a yard, 36. And this is where you have to use these conversion factors, and you're just deciding, do I multiply or divide? So 90 over 36, if you divided that out, you would get 2. You would get 2.5, and therefore 90 inches equals 2.5 yards. And I do think that the easiest way to do these problems is with a multiplication and a division, very simply here. Okay, you could sometimes use that division, put your answer. I could as easily have said 2 1/2 yards when I'm done. So either answer is perfectly acceptable. So I don't think there's anything else to say on 1 through 8. Now let's look at 9 through 16. Here I have an example like 3 feet 5 inches, and I want to convert that all to inches. This is somewhat, if you might think of this as a mixed fraction. Okay, you have the whole part and you have a part of it, except that I'm converting it more to the improper. I'm converting it to the smaller unit. Okay, so you're asking yourself how many inches are in 3 feet? Well, that would be 3 times 12, or 36 inches, plus 5 more inches. and altogether that's going to equal 41 inches. So that's how we do that. We convert the whole part to the unit we need, in this case inches, and then we tack on the rest of them. Let's look at a couple more examples with that. What if we had 4 feet 3 inches? Again, how many inches are in 4 feet? That would be 4 times 12, because there's going to be more inches than feet. So we're multiplying, and there are 12 inches in a foot. So that would be 48, and then don't forget to add on the 3 additional inches. So you are going to get, in this case, 51 inches. So these are all pretty straightforward. Be careful of your units. If instead you had, it says actually convert them all to inches. So let's look at number 10. Number 10 says 3 yards, 7 inches. So I would have to convert yards to inches by multiplying by 36 and then adding the additional 7. This is an interesting one, number 11. Let's look at that very carefully here. So our directions are saying convert everything to inches. So if I'm converting my yards to inches, I'm going to have to multiply, and there are 36 inches in a yard. And so 36 times 2, that would be 72 inches for that part. When I convert my feet to inches, I'm still going to have to multiply, this time by 12, so that's going to be 24 inches, and then I need to add them together. So I think you can use these demonstrations to do the rest on your own. Let's look at the problem solving very quickly. The first one is a straightforward conversion from miles to feet. So I would have to multiply, and my conversion factor is 5280. The second one is 2 conversions. We have 1980 feet. If I were to convert that to yards, I would have to divide, and how many feet in a yard? 3. So you divide by 3, and then the second one part, you want to convert it to inches, so I would need more, so I would have to multiply it, and how many inches in a foot? 12. Okay, so sharpening skills is just pretty direct there. Remember your percentages. Let's talk about that for just a minute. Number 9 says 23% of 875. I would do these as ratios. There are 2 ways to do it. The first method would be a ratio, where I have 23 over 100 equals what? Over 875. The second method might even be easier in this particular case. Would say 23% is 0.23, and I would multiply that by 875. Either choice. The next one asks, 16 is what percent of 50? So we don't know the percent, so we'll put the x over the 100, and that equals 16 over 50. Recall that this is one of those ones that I can look at very easily and quickly if I'm looking at it in this direction. 50 times 2 is 100, so 16 times 2 would be my x. So that works out very nicely there. And number 11, 42 is 20% of what number? And again, we would put our 20 over 100. And notice that the 42 is the small number, and we don't know the other number. So again, I would just cross multiply for that. Whenever I cross multiply, recall what I do is I do not multiply that out. In this case, you're just multiplying by 100, so it's almost irrelevant. But as a habit, you should not multiply out until you get everything to the right side so you can take advantage of canceling. Remember, our canceling would be take away one of the zeros. 2 goes into 42 21 times, and 21 times 10 is 2,000, or I mean 210. Okay, just like that. So you go ahead and do those again on your own. It's a good idea not to do them right this second, but put your notes away and try to do these problems, especially the ones I've just shown you, in another several hours or a day.